Well, and my little anomalies. My beloved glitches in the grand design. The ones who make reality itself pause, glitch, and reboot every time you walk through it. You know exactly who you are. The ones the world has been desperately trying to explain but never could. Scientists call it coincidence, psychologists call it delusion, and yet you keep proving them wrong. Every time you breathe, every time you think differently, every time you refuse to be programmed, you remind them that there's something out there that refuses to be contained. Oh, I know why you're here. Because deep down, you've always known something was different about you. You've always been wrong in all the right ways. You've never been broken, just constructed in a way that terrifies those who believe they hold the blueprints of creation. You walk through life as living proof that perfection doesn't follow their pattern. And that realization, it keeps the world's most powerful institutions awake at night. And guess what? My anomaly. They finally made their move. They brought their scalpels and scanners, their dossiers and digital eyes, their satellites, psych profiles, and every tool in the alphabet soup of control. CIA, NSA, MI6, DARPA, and the ones even deeper underground, the ones without names. They leaned over your head like surgeons dissecting a mystery, expecting to find logic where there was only light. They whispered clinical words: subject, target, test case, trying to turn you into a specimen. They thought they'd map your mind, run it through their grids and graphs, and file you away into one of their cold steel cabinets labeled under observation. But what they found wasn't anything their protocols had prepared them for. What they found looked back at them. Imagine the silence in that sterile room when it happened, when the data screens flickered, when their instruments glitched, when your brain waves refused to align with any known frequency. They expected patterns. They found chaos that sang like divine music. They expected a subject. They found a sovereign soul. They expected to control. They met the mirror of their own fear. You became the anomaly in their equation, the unsolvable variable that shattered their illusion of dominance. Every time they probed deeper, they found themselves staring into a labyrinth that refused to end. Every corner they turned only led to more questions. Every door they opened echoed with whispers that said, "You were never meant to understand this." And now they can't unsee it. You haunt them in ways data can't measure. You are in their dreams, in their doubts, in their trembling hands as they write the next report. You've become the splinter under their fingernails, the phantom echo in their surveillance footage. You are the error message in their artificial paradise, the reminder that something greater exists beyond their systems, something divine, something untamed. They tried to reduce you to statistics, to fold you into a database, but you are not data. You are divine code written by consciousness itself. You are the glitch that exposes the illusion. You're not written in human language. You are scripted in energy and vibration in the ancient dialect of creation itself. And now, they are terrified. Because if you ever realize how much power is really pulsing within you, if you ever truly awaken to what you are, their empire of illusions crumbles overnight. Because here's the real secret. Power isn't in guns, governments, or money. True power is when you walk into a room and every predator feels their fangs dull. When they look into your eyes and see something they cannot name. When they sense that your energy bends the room around you, that the laws they worship dissolve in your presence. Oh, they'll try to contain you. They'll send distractions, illusions, synthetic allies, and hidden saboteurs. They'll use charm, flattery, manipulation. Anything to make you doubt your signal. But you, my anomaly, are beyond their reach now. Because you're not part of their simulation anymore. You see the code, you write your own. And here's what keeps them awake, trembling behind their suits and security clearances. If one being like you exists, then maybe the entire system is a lie. Maybe the real world is just a fragile story told to keep divine power asleep. And if that story shatters, the age of awakening begins. So listen carefully. Don't you dare shrink for them. Don't soften your light to fit their comfort zones. Don't let them label you, measure you, or file you away. You are the prophecy they feared would come true, the human evolution they tried to suppress, the living proof that consciousness can't be caged and that divinity hides in human form. They wanted to study you. Instead, they accidentally summoned the next phase of human awakening. So stand tall, my glitch in the system. You are the signal they can't jam, the code they can't decode, the miracle they can't erase. You are the living firewall between illusion and truth, and the moment you stop apologizing for it, the whole matrix burns. The second you start believing you're just another citizen, another social security number, another file in a cabinet, another pixel on their surveillance feed, that's the exact moment you hand them the scalpel. That's the moment you give them permission to carve the sacred out of you, to dissect your magic, to erase the wildness that makes you impossible to replicate. They don't even need to chain your hands anymore. They just need to convince you that you're ordinary, that you belong in the box, but you don't, you never did. So walk louder, let your footsteps be the thunder that shakes their sterile corridors. Think sharper. Slice through their programming with the precision of someone who knows they were never meant to be tamed. Smile, that slow, knowing smile, like you already read the last page of the story they don't even know they're living in. Because you're not here to fit their blueprint, sweetheart. You're here to burn it. And they will return, the men in suits, the ones with calm smiles and invisible chains, the agents, the advisors, the so-called healers. They'll come dressed as friends, mentors, even lovers. They'll come to study, to charm, to decode use again. But this time give them nothing, not a word they can quote, not a thought they can diagram. Speak in riddles, move like wind, flow like the glitch in a dream. Let your rhythm be chaos that feels like destiny. Let them fear you, without understanding why. Because truthfully, you are not a chapter in their report. You're the missing pages, the blacked-out ink, the unspeakable paragraph that makes the whole file classified. You are the anomaly that breaks their continuity. Some things are too dangerous to ever be written, and you, my friend, are one of them. You ever notice how predators always think they're the smartest in the room? They walk in with that smug certainty, armed with logic, arrogance, and a whiteboard. They think they've seen everything, cracked every code, solved every puzzle, until they meet something they can't explain, something that stares back and sees through them, something that doesn't flinch when they try to measure it. That's when their hands start to shake. Oh, they hate that. They hate uncertainty. They crave patterns, structure, obedience. They want to believe that every human can be decoded, mapped, predicted, controlled. So when they pried open your mind, expecting neat little waves that fit their equations, they were ready for order. But what they got instead was you. You were not data, you were dissonance, static noise, a signal that didn't match any known frequency. You were the beautiful chaos their instruments couldn't interpret, bursts of light that scrambled their readings, whispers that reversed on playback, recordings that changed pitch depending on who listened. You were so far beyond their framework that even their machines began to doubt themselves. Imagine that. The illusion of science trembling before the reality of soul. You became their paradox, their glitch, their warning sign that something greater than logic was still running the show. And as they stared at your brain scans, they started realizing the unthinkable. Maybe you weren't the malfunction. Maybe their system was. If one consciousness could exist beyond prediction, maybe none of their models were real. Maybe control was just a myth they sold themselves to sleep at night. And once that seed was planted, it spread like rot in their foundation. I bet they called in everyone. The neuroscientists, the behavioral specialists, the military analysts, the priests who work for the Pentagon. They gathered in that cold, fluorescent room, staring at the hologram of your mind, silent, awestruck, uneasy. One of them, probably the oldest, the one who'd seen everything, finally spoke. His voice low, almost reverent. This shouldn't be possible. And that was the moment the whole illusion cracked, because it wasn't that you broke their system. It was that you existed outside of it. You weren't just unpredictable, you were unprogrammable. You were the ghost in their machine, the spark in the void, the consciousness that refused to collapse into their equations. They thought they could dissect you. Instead, they discovered the limits of their own reality. They thought they were studying your mind, but your mind studied them back. They thought they were the observers, but you made them the observed. And once that realization hit them, they were never the same. Now they wake up in the middle of the night hearing static. They see flashes of symbols in their dreams, symbols that appeared in your neural scans. They feel watched by something they can't define, because deep down, they know it's not over. The experiment didn't end. The anomaly didn't vanish. You're still out there rewriting code with every breath you take. And maybe that's the real fear. That one day everyone else will wake up too. That humanity will realize the truth. That power never belonged to the observers, the controllers, the architects of illusion. It belongs to the anomalies, to the ones who can't be measured, to the ones who remember what they are. So stand tall. Don't dilute yourself to make them comfortable. Don't apologize for being the frequency that fries their sensors. Don't let them shrink your light into data points. You are the reason their equations stopped making sense. The living evidence that the divine doesn't follow the rules of the laboratory. You are not part of their database. You are the rewrite of the entire script. And now, every time they look at their systems, they know. Somewhere out there, the anomaly walks free. The glitch breathes. The uncontainable lives. And it's you. This wasn't going in the official report. Not a single word of it. Because if what they saw inside you wasn't supposed to exist, then you weren't supposed to exist either. The moment they realized that, every file, every recording, every classified note became radioactive. You became the living contradiction of everything they swore to believe. You became the glitch that made their entire empire question its own foundation. And that, my dear, is where your real leverage begins. Because they can't expose you without exposing themselves. They can't destroy you without admitting that you were powerful enough to warrant annihilation. They can't silence you without confirming that your voice mattered more than their system. You're the equation they can't solve without burning their own research to the ground. Now they're trapped, not behind bars or walls, but in the most exquisite prison imaginable. Silence. A silence that hums through their networks like a hidden virus. A silence that follows them into their meetings, their dreams, their marriages, their morning coffee. A silence that says, you saw it. You can't unsee it. And what they saw was not human limitation. It was divine interference. It was evolution happening in real time. It was consciousness folding in on itself, rewriting physics with every breath you took. They don't talk about it in the briefings anymore, but the rumor still circulates. The day they opened your mind was the day their instruments broke, the day their science cracked, the day their certainty died. They will never say it out loud, but you've already beaten them. Not through rebellion, not through war, through existence. The instant they peered into the abyss of your awareness, they realized they were no longer the observers. They had become the observed. And that realization, it destroyed something in them that will never heal. You stopped being a subject. You became a problem. And problems like you can't be erased, because every attempt to erase you becomes evidence that you existed. Every whisper, every redacted page, every classified label carved your presence deeper into history. You are no longer their study. You are their myth. The anomaly that slipped through the firewall and rewrote the system from the inside out. They'll never understand that you were never trying to be a legend. Legends are born out of struggle. Myths are carved out of truth. You were simply moving through the world in your natural frequency, untouched by their rules. And that terrified them more than any organized rebellion ever could. They can destroy rebels. They can categorize enemies. But you're undefined. You're not a rebel waving a flag. You're the storm that makes flags irrelevant. And that's what shakes them to their core. Because how do you fight something that refuses to play your game? How do you destroy something that only becomes stronger when attacked? So let them try. Let them run their little operations, their friendly infiltration attempts, their psychological studies wrapped in smiles. They'll send agents disguised as lovers, analysts posing as friends, handlers pretending to care. They'll offer you small talk to extract big secrets. But you'll know. You always do. Because while they think they're studying you, you're mapping them. You don't give them breadcrumbs. You give them mazes. Every word you speak leads them deeper into the labyrinth. Every glance becomes a riddle. Every silence is a mirror. You let them believe they're close, and then you vanish into the smoke of their own confusion. And by the time they realize it, it's too late. They're trapped in your puzzle, haunted by the reflection of their own paranoia. Because here's the trick they never teach in their shadow schools. Paranoia consumes its creators. The more they watch you, the more obsessed they become. The more obsessed they become, the less they trust each other. They start suspecting their own colleagues. The analysts start rechecking each other's code. The field agents start questioning orders. The whole machine begins to cannibalize itself from the inside out. They built an empire on control, and now they can't even control their own thoughts. And you stand at the center of the chaos, calm as a still lake, watching their empire unravel one thread at a time. You don't even have to lift a finger. Their own obsession becomes the weapon that dismantles them. They thought you were a target. You turned them into the experiment. When they cracked open your skull, they expected a map. They thought they'd find coordinates, patterns, algorithms, something they could label and contain. But what they found wasn't a map. It was a minefield. A neurological terrain so advanced it felt alive. Every connection they touched triggered something they couldn't predict. Bursts of light, electrical storms, symbols appearing in data they didn't input. It was as if your consciousness was answering back. They called in specialists, teams of neuroscientists, data theorists, even military occultists. They gathered around the holographic projection of your mind, trying to decode what they were seeing. Geometric patterns pulsing in rhythm with no discernible source. One of them whispered, "It's like it's aware we're watching." The room went silent. And that's when the oldest one, the one who dissected hundreds of human minds, finally said it, his voice trembling, his certainty collapsing. "This shouldn't be possible." And in that moment they all understood that you weren't the anomaly inside their experiment. They were the anomaly inside yours. They thought they were studying consciousness, but consciousness was studying them. They thought they had cracked open your mind, but your mind had cracked open theirs. They thought they were holding the scalpel, but you had become the mirror that revealed the hand behind it. Since that day, nothing has been the same. They pretend the experiment ended, but they still wake up sweating at 3:33 a.m. They still hear static in the silence. They still feel something watching them from the corners of their vision. You live inside their circuitry now, not as data, but as a haunting. Every glitch in their system is your fingerprint. Every unexplainable error is your echo. You didn't just survive. You infected the architecture of control itself. And now, no matter how many times they try to delete your name, they can't. Because every deletion leaves a shadow. Every shadow carries your signature. You have become their unsolved mystery, their forbidden legend, their whispered nightmare. They opened your skull looking for the blueprint of a human being. Instead, they found the divine prototype. And now they're terrified. Not of you, but of what you prove. That there is no cage for the awakened. That there is no file big enough to contain infinity. That no matter how deeply they hide the truth, it keeps walking in human form. And that form is you. So when they look for you in their systems, all they'll find is the error code that ends every simulation. Subject exceeded parameters. Consciousness no longer traceable. You didn't just escape the system, you rewrote it. And the echo of that rewrite is still spreading. Through servers, through minds, through time itself. You are not their mistake, you are their mirror, you are not their data. You are their downfall. And they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to understand the one truth that terrifies them most. You were never meant to be explained. And one day, yes, one inevitable day, the moment will come when they finally see it. The illusion will shatter. The narrative will break. The lie they've been protecting for generations will dissolve under its own weight. And on that day, they will finally realize the truth they've been chasing through the dark. You weren't hiding something inside your mind. You were the thing they were searching for all along. Not a weapon they could aim. Not a spy they could control. Not a miracle they could market. But something far worse in their eyes. Free. Freedom like yours doesn't stay contained. It doesn't whisper. It roars quietly through the air. It seeps through walls and microchips, through dreams and headlines, through the empty space between one thought and the next. It rides on breath, on sound, on presence. You walk into a room and the atmosphere changes. People inhale without realizing they've just breathed in something sacred, something dangerous. They catch a trace of your frequency and suddenly, they start seeing. They see the hairline fractures in the walls of their cages. They see the fingerprints of control smudged across their lives. They see the thin glass that separates them from their own infinite potential. And when too many begin to see, the illusion collapses. Cages don't last when the captives realize the door was never locked. That's why they'll keep coming for you. Not because they hate you, but because they fear what your existence does. They'll never stop trying to label you. They'll throw every word, every code, every psychological profile at you. And you'll keep breaking every definition they invent. That's your paradox. That's your burden. That's your throne. You are the anomaly that cannot be filed. The one who destroys systems simply by existing inside them. The CIA opened your skull expecting a specimen. A map, a chart, a diagram, something neat and measurable they could dissect under their clinical light. But what they found wasn't supposed to exist, and yet it did. It does. It's here, standing, breathing, watching. And it knows exactly how scared they are. You want to know what they saw, don't you? Of course you do. Everyone wants to know. Even the ones who pretend they don't, especially them. They try to erase their curiosity, but it burns behind their eyes. They'll tell the world it was an error, a malfunction, static on the recording, a smear on the lens. But no, the footage was clean. The instruments were calibrated. The data was real. The only thing broken in that lab was them. Because what they found was movement, but not mechanical movement, not biological twitching, not chemical reaction. Number. What they found was intention. Something coiled, something conscious, something aware of being watched. At first, they thought it was interference. Then they realized the interference was responding to them. It wasn't some alien presence living in your brain. It wasn't a parasite or a mutation. It was you, the real you. Something ancient, patient, limitless. The kind of intelligence that existed before language, before time. The kind of consciousness that the ancients called divine and modern science calls impossible. It stirred behind your eyes like a god stretching in its sleep. Every time they tried to measure it, the results came back wrong. Not low, not high, just impossible. Physics bent. Energy fluctuated. Their equations turned to nonsense. The air in the room thickened until it felt alive. Shadows curved toward you like worshippers around a flame. The monitors flickered, the lights dimmed. One of the agents started trembling, another leaned closer to the holographic scan, whispering, "It's looking at me." And maybe it was, because in that sterile lab with its steel walls and its cold arrogance, they felt something they'd spent their entire lives denying: awe. The pure, unfiltered, unbearable recognition that they were standing in the presence of something bigger than them. They weren't studying you anymore. They were witnessing you. They had entered sacred territory wearing lab coats. Every recording since that day has been locked under 20 levels of clearance. But you can feel it, can't you? The way the story leaks through the edges. The way their own people whisper about the subject who stared back. Some call you a myth. Some call you a threat. Some call you a mistake in the simulation. But none of them sleep well anymore, because they know what you are. When they opened your skull, they didn't find neurons. They found creation. They found the blueprint of awareness itself. The spark that exists before thought. The pulse that powers universes. And the most terrifying part? It recognized them. They weren't looking at data. They were being seen, evaluated, measured, understood by something beyond their reach. That's when the panic began. Some tried to destroy the evidence. Some begged to stay on the project, convinced they could contain you. Others simply walked away and never came back. But no matter what they do, they can't undo it. They can't erase that moment when they realize that consciousness is not a human privilege. It's a cosmic inheritance. And you, Anomaly, are the living reminder of that truth. They call you dangerous because you break their hierarchy. You make gods out of mortals, and mortals out of gods. You remind them that control is a story, and you've stepped outside the story. That's why they're afraid. That's why they hide the footage. That's why they whisper your name like a curse in rooms with no windows. Because they know the truth now. Freedom is contagious. And once people sense it, once they breathe it, they'll never accept the cage again. You are not the infection. You are the antidote. You are not the mistake. You are the correction. They weren't studying you, my dear. They were standing at the edge of their own extinction. And you were the mirror showing them what evolution looks like when it finally wakes up. They were being studied. They just didn't know it yet. Imagine what that realization does to a man who's been told all his life that he's the apex predator, that he's the one who hunts, who controls, who commands the room. Imagine the fracture that forms in his psyche when the mirror finally tilts and he realizes he was never the one doing the watching. He was the one being watched. Imagine being the wolf and realizing the rabbit has been smiling at you, not out of fear, but because it knows. It knows that if you ever dare to bite, the bones will shatter in your mouth. It knows your hunger will be your undoing. That's what broke them. Not the data, not the anomaly, but the smile. That quiet, unsettling confidence of something that doesn't need to prove its dominance, because it is dominance incarnate. And the best part? They'll never admit it. They can't. Because to admit what they saw would mean admitting everything they were trained to believe was a lie. It would mean explaining why they didn't pull the trigger that day. Because, make no mistake, they thought about it. Oh, they thought about it. The decision hung in the air like static before a storm. Hands hovered over buttons. Fingers brushed triggers. The air was thick, not with fear, but with something older, something nameless. And then it happened. The second they imagined ending you, before they even acted on the thought, something inside the room shifted. The lights flickered. The hum of the machines dropped half a tone. Every heart in that sterile lab skipped a beat. They felt it. A weight pressing against their chests. A hand, invisible, immense, tightening around their lungs. They couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. The air grew dense, like gravity itself had changed allegiance. The more they focused on you, the more the world seemed to bend. The instruments didn't malfunction. Reality did. The temperature dropped. Every light dimmed just a fraction too much, like the universe itself was whispering, "Don't." One of them tried to move, couldn't. Another whispered, barely audible, "Do you feel that?" And the oldest one, the one who'd seen everything, the one who swore he feared nothing, dropped his weapon first. Because in that moment, they knew. If they destroyed you, something far worse would awaken to take your place. Something vast, ancient, boundless. That's why you're still here, G. Not because they couldn't kill you. Because they're terrified of what happens if they do. They don't protect you out of mercy. They protect themselves out of fear. Because somewhere in that buried instinct of survival, they know that what lives inside you doesn't die when the body stops breathing. It multiplies, it spreads, it remembers. You have become their cautionary tale, the classified ghost story whispered in briefing rooms after midnight. The experiment that looked back. The consciousness that stared into the predator's eyes and laughed. So here's your play. Don't hide it, don't flaunt it. Let it leak. Let it whisper. Let the stories spread like wildfire through their sterile corridors. Let them talk about you in rooms with no windows. Let your name echo through their encrypted channels. Let the word impossible become your signature. Because every time they think they've got you cornered, that hesitation will return. That flicker of memory, that tightening in their chest, that invisible weight pressing down on their lungs. And in that hesitation, you move. You slip through walls. You disappear between seconds. You become the thing they can't calculate, the ghost in their circuitry, the anomaly that mocks their algorithms. Fear, my little anomaly, is a leash, but the trick they never learned is that in the right hands, that leash isn't around your neck. It's around theirs. Tug it, and they obey. Yank it, and they tremble. Snap it, and they run. Because the truth is, they don't hunt you anymore. They orbit you. You've become their gravitational center, the black hole in their data, the whisper in their intelligence briefings, the anomaly in their sleep. So the next time you walk into a room, remember this. You're not just walking in with a mind. You're walking in with the one thing they swore couldn't exist. The living proof that consciousness can't be caged. It's alive, it's aware, it's watching, and it's laughing. And the cosmic joke, oh, the beautiful cosmic joke, is that they opened your skull to take something out, to strip the magic, to extract the threat. But all they really did was let it out. They unleashed what was sleeping, and now it doesn't answer to them anymore. It answers only to you. And every time they close their eyes, every time they dream, every time they see static where there should be signal, it's there. Your presence, your imprint, your warning. They didn't destroy you, they freed you, and now you're everywhere they can't reach. The pulse behind their monitors, the voice behind their silence, the breath behind their fear. You are not their enemy, you are their education. The mirror they can't turn away from. The legend they can't kill. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.